Bring in some initial thoughts from Maura and Teddy on this story. Maura, starting with you, we've again heard from President Putin commenting on European countries, saying that if they try to spike his peace efforts, that he would want to take Ukraine by force. So amid that, what do you make of the fact that Politico is reporting there'll be talks?
Well, it's concerning just in the fact that there's such a focus on Putin. And I know that Trump, the president of the United States, is very focused on his relationship with Putin. He feels rebuffed by what happened in Alaska earlier this year and really wants to come out with a win here. He talks a lot about his ability to negotiate deals and to make peace deals. And he really wants to be able to add this feather in his cap. And so my concern is for the other countries around Russia, because if we concede anything when it comes to Ukraine, that doesn't really bode well for our allies in the region, and just really giving in to Vladimir Putin's strong-arming his way into Ukraine. And so there's going to be a lot of focus on this, but I'm hopeful to hear about some other names coming out of this meeting who will be in attendance, aside from just Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff.
How important do you think this is for President Trump himself?
Unfortunately, I think it is pretty important for him to get some of these wins. Again, he seems to be more focused on his own record of wins, not necessarily what's going to be best for the American people. And I think as Republicans get home to their districts and really start talking to the people who they need to elect them if they want to keep their jobs, that's going to come into more of a focus for them, the issues at hand and the issues that are impacting their constituents, not the issues that keep the president up truth socialing up at night.
OK, Maura. Given that the president talks so much about affordability, clearly there are some Republicans who think that they should be, looking after people's healthcare subsidies and getting them the discounts on those subsidies that existed prior still exist until December the 31st, but are rapidly running out. Do you think other Republicans aren't reading the room correctly on this issue, or are they too concerned about voting against the president's wishes?
I would say that the issues surrounding the ACA subsidies, they're not necessarily providing a discount to the consumers. The subsidies go to the insurance companies. So Republicans are right to call that out and to say the reason we have this is that, one, Democrats extended this to 2025 and to end this date. So that was set up by Democrats. And that they really go to the insurance companies because of the fact that Obamacare isn't working the way that we were promised. Now, that being said, these Republicans who voted in favor of the ACA extension understand that American people are currently hurting. Affordability, cost of living has not gone down in the ways that they were promised. And this subsidy issue is going to just make that worse, especially around the holidays, especially as we go into the new year. And their constituents are upset. And so they reacted and they responded and they voted in favor of their constituents and to address the problems that they're hearing from, not what the president is saying and not what Speaker Johnson is saying, which, I think this is also a reflection of leadership that hasn't been listening to his conference and finding a solution. And to Teddy's point, we've had plenty of time to come up with a solution and we need to be working towards it, and saying that we'll get to it next year doesn't help the deadline that's happening right now.
When you look at that poll, and it is, just one study, isn't it? Does that give you cause for concern as a Republican strategist? It also, if we look at other events recently, for example, in Indiana, where those Republicans voted with Democrats to, stop the president's plans to redraw voting districts there, we've seen quite widespread criticism of President Trump about his comments on the death of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Panelists on Fox News saying his words were inappropriate. Does it feel like there's a bit of a shift here in the way people are prepared to say if they don't like something that the president does?
Absolutely. I think there's an opportunity. I wouldn't say it's necessarily raising the alarm bells. I would actually say it's an opportunity for Republicans who are looking beyond Donald Trump and who need to be looking beyond Donald Trump. He's a lame duck president, and he hasn't shown up for them. These elections have shown us that largely people are voting against him, not necessarily for the candidate. Take New Jersey. They didn't vote for Mikey Sherrill. They voted against Donald Trump and what he has been doing thus far in his second term. And so Republicans have an opportunity. Indiana Republicans showed us in the State House there is a constitutionality off-ramp. They can focus on things that the president is doing that doesn't fall in line with conservative principles and policies. They could also, if they're farther on the right and if they were formerly known as MAGA, they could go the Marjorie Taylor Greene route, who is saying that she's no longer MAGA, she's America first because she's putting the American people first. So there's opportunities here for Republicans who want to keep their jobs, who want to run for office and detach themselves from President Trump, because a lot of what he's putting forth is not in line with conservative principles, not even conservative policies. And so there is a real opportunity here, and I hope that they'll take it.
Teddy, what do you think of what Maura's just been saying?
I agree. Obviously, as a Democrat, I hope Democrats win more elections. But as Americans, I hope that I hope that Trump's stranglehold over the Republican Party is loosened. I don't think that's been good for any of us. I'd rather, frankly, see a stronger and healthier Republican Party that maybe wins some more elections, but is closer to what I consider a sane, patriotic, justifiable set of policies, even if it is conservative, than what we've seen from the MAGA era Republicans. So I do think I think it's premature to say that his grip on the party is over. Obviously, he's still the president. He's still very popular, at least among the base. I do think it's loosening. I think that's going to be a good thing for the country, and it may be a good thing for some of these Republicans who don't, follow him every step of the way going forward.
Yeah, Maura, do you think that's a point to be made there, that this might be wishful thinking by some Republicans who want to move past President Trump? His hold on the party is still incredibly strong, and he's still incredibly popular among Republicans.
He is, but I think that, again, they have to look beyond that. And if they want to have a political career and they want to have a career beyond him, then they're going to have to step up and make those decisions and speak up when it matters and when it's something that they can get behind. Again, Indiana Republicans did that. These Republicans who voted with the ACA subsidy extension, they did that. I think you're seeing that with Rob Reiner. Many people did that. When you start losing people like Piers Morgan and Rob Schneider and the likes of Fox News panels, that's really telling you something, that they're feeling a little bit more emboldened, a little more empowered to say, that's gone too far. You've gone too far. And I do think that the president's decline, both cognitively and just, he's approaching 80. He's getting pretty grumpy in a lot of ways, and they don't have to necessarily defend it. And they can call out when things are egregious, and they should. There's an opportunity here. And again, like I said, this is their chance to really reframe their own messaging, because the White House has not provided them with a messaging tactic and any type of strategy. They need to be on their own there and doing it for their constituents. When the president called affordability a hoax, that did not sit well with voters, especially his voters who are feeling the pains of the economy not being in their favor. I think he's also been insulated by those who are benefiting from his economy, which really is just Trump world. And so getting back out there and listening to the people who elected him in the first place, that'll be important. I'm curious tonight if he'll be able to stay on message and focus on the issues at hand. He'll probably talk about the border security that he accomplished. That is an accomplishment that he is proud of. I think he'll talk about the golden age of America. He'll talk about his tariffs, because in his mind, those are going to make a big boon in the next year. He has been promising, his administration has been touting that we're going to see the impact in a positive way next year. So I think we're going to see that. But I do think that the president loves to have control over the narrative. I don't know that that's always the best thing for the Republican Party, but we'll see how he does tonight.
Yeah, Maura, it's funny you use that phrase. That's exactly what I was going to pick up with, the idea of controlling the narrative and that versus really addressing Americans' concerns. So it looks like you're going to be really paying very close attention to this and looking to see if the president hits certain things that you are hoping, ticks off certain things that you are concerned about, and if he actually addresses those points.
Absolutely. And my concern as well is the tone. I think that we saw in the 24 election, the president really focused on affordability because he was able to bash the Biden administration and Harris administration. And we, the voters, felt as though we were being gaslit a little bit by the Harris-Biden administration, by them telling us that things were going well when we didn't feel like they were. And so the president does the very same thing tonight by telling us that we are in the golden age of America and that affordability is a hoax. That's not going to sit well with voters who are not feeling that way. And so he'll be doing the very thing that he railed against in the campaign. So I'm curious about his tone and how he approaches the topic, because largely in Pennsylvania last week, he did not hit the nail on the head with his messaging. So tonight's going to be his chance to sort of redo that.
Maura, let's move on to your pick now. And I find that very often that in this segment on the programme, we end up talking about the NFL. And you have a story about a particular NFL quarterback, don't you?
So Phillips Rivers played this weekend. And he played for, he hasn't played in a number of years, 44 years old, and came back out there. His oldest child is actually older than the backup quarterback right now on his team. So just to give context there, it's pretty incredible. And it was just fun to watch him play, honestly. So anyone who caught the game this weekend, it was you couldn't help but cheer him on. I'm not, a Colts fan. I'm an Eagles fan. Just to put that out there. Go Birds.
But for anyone who
doesn't,
doesn't know the background to this, why did this 44-year-old quarterback, 1,800 days since his last NFL game, end up back on the field?
They needed somebody to come back in and play. Their backups were injured, out, and they brought in a veteran, and he delivered. I will say, obviously, the end of the game came down to field goal versus field goal versus field goal, but he really did. He put on quite the show. And as our earlier topic was about healthcare, he earned his healthcare that he now gets for another couple of years for he and his family. He's got 10 children. His story is just pretty incredible. So it was fun to see him play. I hope he gets back out there another time.
Yeah, Teddy, talking about, heartwarming movies, this could be a script from a movie, couldn't it? Everybody loves someone who makes a return to glory, don't they? They love that kind of story.
Yeah, it's tough when it's a cult, but in general, it could be, locally in Indiana, it could be popular.
And I believe your team, Maura, won the Super Bowl last year. Is that right?
We did. Thank you for reminding viewers that they did. Yes, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, and we finally won after a 3-game, streak of losing there. But we're turning things around.
And Teddy, I feel like this is a strange question, but do you have a team? Are you an NFL fan? Pretty much every American is, right?
I grew up a Jets fan. Not sure why I chose that when I was like 3 years old. The Jets, as you may or may not know, have never competed in my entire lifetime. So I hate to be a fair weather fan, but it's just hard to watch a team lose 15 out of 16 games year after year after year. So I sort of ceased to be a fan.
Well, look, let me tell you this. Being on this program and doing this segment is an education for me into the NFL. So thank you for that education tonight. Maura Gillespie and Teddy Goff, really good to have you with us on The Context USA.